Podcast. I am your host, Raj Anderson, Executive Life Coach and Coach Assessor. I'm excited to be back. Been out for a couple of weeks, and I'm excited to be here with John Andrew Williams, who is the founder of Coach Training EDU, and a special guest, Shawnee. Welcome, Shawnee. Would you introduce yourself for us to the listeners?
Absolutely. It's lovely to meet you all. My name is Shawnee Platero. I am a recent graduate of Coach Training EDU's 1.0 Essentials program, and I am currently enrolled in the 2.0 program as well. I have been working on getting my practice up and running, and outside of this, I'm a project manager by trade, so have been in that, worked for Pinterest, Savvy Cooperative, currently a project manager and operations manager for a company called Apic. And they are fantastic, but happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you, Shawnee. Congratulations on completing your 1.0 and going into 2.0. And I'm going to hand over to John. John, what would you add before we get into our demo?
I'm just really excited to have you back, Raj. I feel like I did my very best to hold it down for 2 weeks, and I don't know, it's okay. And then it's fun to see you here, Shawnee. And I know we've had a couple of sweet sessions together, and it's really, yeah, I'm looking forward to this one a lot. So, yay, other people rather than me being on the Coaching and Flourish.
Well, you did do a great job. For those of you that might have missed last week, John went through the book Year of Yes and actually sat and did those reflection questions. So there was bonus Coaching to Flourish with self-reflection last week. So go ahead and listen to that. But today we're back to normal, aren't we, on demos?
I mean, I gotta say too, I do like, in our household, Bridgerton is definitely on the table, and I haven't had a show that I've watched at all, but it's been fun. Maybe we could do I don't know. I know that, yeah.
That's a whole other Coaching to Flourish podcast.
There's a lot there. There's a lot there. I'm not saying Bridgerton is without his problems. However, I'd have to say Shonda is amazing in some of the writing and the ideas that are being in play. It's sweet. But anyway, we have a demo to get to, and it's queued up. So let's do that, and then make sure we see it all. Yay! Here we are.
Perfect.
There we are. Boom, boom. All right, ready to go?
I'm ready.
25 minutes. So this is just part one. We've realized it takes us at least 2 Coaching to Flourishes to get through one demo. So this is just part one. I'm just gonna let it play. Okay. What would you like to look at?
Yeah, so I think for this one, the two things that are top of mind for me this week, and we can go in either direction, they're two very different ones, are either kind of fully embracing a little bit more of self-identity like we talked about last time, except for more like less acknowledging that it's there and more just like actually running with it. Mm-hmm. And then the other one is kind of more business side of things. Like I'd like to start getting everything set up there. And so those are the two things that are occupying most of my thoughts this week.
How are they related?
I think that there is an element of hesitancy in both, where it's just like,
I just love this profession so much. Like, I just gotta, you know what I mean? It just feels like question asking is such a beautiful thing to be good at.
Truly.
And that question's popped into my mind, and then you asked it, John. Shawnee, what do you think as you are listening in from a different perspective, and we're only 40 seconds in, but John asked that connection question there.
Yeah, it was like a really, really impactful question for me in the moment, just because I remember approaching it very definitively in my head as two different topics, and then immediately it was just like, okay, but how are they related? And I was like, oh, these are the same thing, which you're going to see in a second. And so it was a very, very powerful question to just kind of be hit with right out of the gates, 46 seconds in. But yeah.
What I love about these Coaching to Flourishes too is I can sit back and I don't even have to use my energy to think about what question is going to happen next. Like, you know what I mean? Consciously, when, oh, like, I just trust like this other person is going to ask the next question. And I think it reminds me of like the system 1 and 2, like the effortful thinking, and then the, system 1 thinking, which is like our brains, like literally like our neurobiology, when we're asked a question, it like our minds are designed to immediately try to find an answer. Like that's system 1, but then system 2 is that more effortful thinking about it. I've been thinking about these system 1, system 2, both in asking questions and how clients answer. And I think it'd be a really interesting lens to look at this one through. If I'm looking at any lens, but that's what I've been thinking about recently. This one is fascinating to me because the question seems to come really quickly, but I think it's still, it can invite that deeper thinking too.
I agree.
Ready? Let's let it roll. Let's let it roll.
I want to be more certain before going forward with it. And so it's just kind of like, there is a part of it that's just like, you just need to take the jump, but also I'm just like, but where am I jumping to?
Yeah. Yeah. So where are you jumping to?
I think, I think there's like a lot of things that are in the air right now, and I think the jump is catching them a little bit.
Yeah.
Like getting them solidified and in place and ready to go. Like there's a lot of good things that are like either happening or coming, and like also a lot of challenging things that are happening or coming, and I'm excited for all of them. But I also am just like trying to integrate all of that into just, I guess, my perception of my life and just worldview.
Where do you tangibly want to be a couple of years from now?
Yeah.
Colorado. I'd like to actually have some friends that are in person. All of my friends are online, which I love them anyway, but still. I'd like to have a few more contract gigs up and running. Ideally, like on my way to moving to London at some point in there.
Okay. But I mean, like business wise, like, you know what I mean? Like the other
on the business side of things, I'd like to just have like a steady stream. Like I don't want it to be, I think I want it to be kind of like a balance between the project management and the coaching, because like I love both and they do different things. And so I kind of like I'd like to keep both of them in my life in some regard.
Gotcha. So where the leaping to, I'm saying it, what would be the measurement of success of this conversation?
I think the measurement of success would be I think knowing at least a little where I'm landing.
Okay. And let's say we got there, what would that change?
I think it would allow me to jump a little bit more, not easily, but jump with less anxiety about it.
Okay.
Like, yeah.
So you're after more clarity on like the landing spot.
Mm-hmm.
How will you know you've landed successfully?
I think because.
What do you think, Raj?
So, John, there's a couple of things I'm curious about. We're still only 4 minutes in, and so much has happened, hasn't it? There is this piece here which could seem like you're asking information questions versus exploration questions. Yet, knowing you, I know that you ask your questions with a purpose. So I wanted to clarify that, right? Because I'm thinking about coaches, newer coaches listening in saying, well, what's the difference here, John, between information gathering and exploration? Or what is the purpose of that for you in that moment?
Like, which question are you thinking of?
When you're kind of asking about where Shawnee wants to go, right? And she started talking about moving to London
Yeah. I was like, I wanted it to be tangible. It felt to me like landing where? Like I'm not feeling the tangibility of the idea yet. I'm not finding myself in, let's call it tangible thought geography. And I also feel like I'm still doing too much of the work of the session. And I'm waiting for Shawnee to say, all right, like, this is what I want. This is what I'm going for. This is it. I'm still feeling like there's an energetic tentativeness.
You're still pulling teeth with me. I can tell looking at this recording is just like the questions and kind of pushing me along further in that regard. I remember it even like obviously from a different perspective back then was just kind of like really like you were asking me to put this into kind of words and like give it that tangibility. And I was just like, I am not seeing that tangibility. And so I was like trying to make that real for myself and also to put that into words at the same time. And I remember it being like feeling like it's just kind of like seeing something out of the corner of your eye and just trying to get there and see it fully.
Yeah, it checks out. I'm not like, I think from a coaching standpoint, it's not like coaching annoyed, but it's coaching like, dude, what are we, like, when is this going to start getting traction? Like energetic, I'm looking for energetic traction. I think that's where it's coming from. And then when she answers, I was meaning where are you jumping to metaphorically? When she answers very much in real terms, part of me just wants to bat that out of the way. I'm like, yeah, we get that. Like, it doesn't, it's more like, no, what, like, we have time together. Like, what is the thing that you want to walk away with that's going to fundamentally change your life and change the way that you're viewing these things? That's where I'm after. But I also at the same time, I have this feeling of, okay, Shawnee like has her life together. Like it feels like someone who can apply project management skills to the project of developing a business. This feels like a very easy, like 1, 2, 3 type thing. Like, you know what I mean? So like part of me is like, so what are we really doing here? But at the same time, I want to respect the idea that you're also exploring and putting these things together in real time. That's where I'm coming from in this. Curious, Raj, your thoughts on this in this space from an assessor standpoint. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, John. So to clarify, for people listening, these questions were purposeful, they were intentional. You are helping your client to dig deeper, you're leaning into intuition, you're building traction here. I guess the other thing I was curious about because there's a snowman in the background. So I was like, oh, this session was done, ghost, right? So Halloween time. Is that right?
My decoration, actually. He's still behind me. He's just out of sight right now. So
he's there. Okay, so that was an assumption I made. So I was like, oh, when was this session done? Was this, what was the time frame for when you did this coaching session, John, between other sessions that you've done? So I was just curious about that. But anyway, you've just corrected my assumption, Shawnee. So holding the mirror up to myself, not to assume if I see snowman in the background that was a ghost. It would be Halloween. But John, what I did like was there were lots of questions in there, but I like the way you split the measure question into 2 as well. In terms of the change. So you're making it tangible, but there is also that learning and being part in that measure question.
Right.
What led you there?
I think what I'm after as a coach is a feeling of of congruence, a feeling of where a client's perspective matches with the session goal, matches with their being, matches with like an internal image I also have. I can't, I've thought about this deeply, like a couple different ways, like this idea of congruence and congruence. I feel like this is what makes coaching sessions work and can feel like you're really like literally like on the same page as, you know, an athlete on the field. Like when a coach and athlete are together on the field, there's a certain energetic feel to it. And what I'm feeling here with Shawnee is I think we're getting there. I feel like I'm getting understanding, and it's coming mostly from my belief that Shawnee has this completely. I think what we're doing here from a coaching standpoint where I'm at is we're just putting words to things that she has not yet said out loud to anybody in this way. I mean, that's obvious, but it's like, okay, this is that, and that's a big deal. Like that's kind of where I'm at as a coach at this point. Curious, Shawnee, how that, like, how much does that land, you know, like, or am I off? Because this is, I mean, I'm making assumptions too, just on listening and where things are at.
That's okay. I definitely think, especially looking, like watching the recording and kind of having both perspectives in this moment, congruence is definitely an idea that I think has a lot of weight here. Because the thing is that like I am a project manager. I do have the skills to do this, and it is something that I can apply and like kind of cross-functionally apply those skills rather easily, and I would to anybody else. And so it's at that point you are aware that the thing that I'm struggling with in my head is not like, you know, what do I need to do? What's the pathway? What's the ABC? It is entirely just like, how do I get this to align with my own internal congruence?
Yeah.
And what am I like trying to process? And like, there is a lot of vulnerability in terms of like, I hadn't said some of the stuff that we covered in the session or in the session that we did in class out loud. And so definitely getting those pieces to align internally and externally.
Yeah, that checks out. That feels exactly where I'd say we're at with this too. It's amazing how much you can hear and listen, like just 5 minutes, you know, we're 4.5 minutes into it. And I do remember this session does get cooking pretty quick here. So yeah, all right, we're in the space. Here we go.
I will know what the path from there looks like. Like, I know my action items, I know my next steps, I know, like, not just my goals, but kind of like what are the things that I need to overcome to get there. There's a clearer vision.
Right. So let's play. Let's go there. I mean, if you were to imagine, like, you know, ideal scenario, like ideal landing spot, let's say 6 months from now, what's that?
I think 6 months from now, I have the coaching set up and it's starting to roll along and like gain traction. I think I have my contracts a little bit more sorted project management wise. And I think for me personally, like, it's easier to take up space without being nervous about taking up space.
Yeah, let's go there. What is it about taking up space that's uncomfortable?
Now we got there.
I think there's like a big question of kind of belonging, and also it's just like I very much approach other people as if like they are like, yeah, there is space in the world for you and it is yours to have and yours to take. I've only recently begun applying that to myself, and so it's still a little bit of a work in progress there.
Yeah, like what work has already been happening and what work is left to go?
Well, for the work that has been happening is I'm starting to get more familiar with myself, as in like not just like the flaws and the areas improving or whatnot, but like the strengths.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing that I've been working on. I've been trying to get more comfortable, like verbally and in my head, acknowledging those things, and kind of owning up to them in their own way. And I think also it's been, put it this way, I know there's like a bit in a John Mulaney thing where he was like, you could pour soup into my lap and I'd probably apologize to you. Like that's been me for my life. I'm trying not to apologize to like every time I run into a chair or a door or somebody does something. Like it's not always my fault.
Right. And now I'm thinking as a coach, like, yeah, we're here. Like, we've arrived, everyone. What do you think,
Absolutely.
Johnny?
We're in
Yeah.
it. And I do note that we only have a few minutes left and we just got into this. So you will have to tune in for part 2. I do want to acknowledge you, Shawnee, for both being on now and listening to this with us and the vulnerability that you're displaying in the session. So I'm really honored to be in this space listening with you, and I can't wait to listen to part 2. John, some really great questions there, kind of getting into it. I also do want to call out, because I get these questions, coaches listening. So it might have seemed like John was asking a double question, yet what I was seeing John do was use it as a tool, like what work has been done and what work has left. So it was like a split question. He's almost using it as a tool. Am I reading that correctly, John, with the way you
Yeah,
were
I know to
asking
do
that?
double questions. I don't know. I have mixed feelings on it, Raj. I feel like I feel like you might be being too generous towards me on the double question thing, but maybe. I don't know. I feel like I do it, but I do it purposefully more. No, I don't know. I don't know. Uh, it worked. So maybe you're on. You're right on.
Let's ask Shawnee. What do you
Well,
think?
I think if it hadn't been a double question, I probably would have automatically started going into both of them anyway. Like
yeah.
they do kind of, the topics do kind of flow into each other and are intrinsically linked in a way that I think allowed for the double question. Um, so yeah, it worked.
I feel like that's my most it's one of my biggest coaching vulnerabilities. When I listen to myself, I hear so many double questions and I think, oh, I've worked on it. Like that is one thing I've consciously worked on. Yeah. You pinpointed a vulnerability, Raj.
What's happening now, John? What's taking place in this moment?
I mean, that's there. And I'm just really grateful for Shawnee's vulnerability here as well, because it allowed the session to click. It allowed, like you're allowing yourself to go to a place that feels like, ah, now we're here. Now this makes sense. This is deep life work. We are now moving internal mountains that will have an impact on the rest of your being and life. Uh, yeah, yeah, that's where I'm at as a coach, and I'm feeling very, very pleased with life at this point. I can just feel it. Like, look at my face, like on this thing. It's like, yeah, that's very. I know it's mid frame, but it's a very happy coachy face.
I remember like something that has held true for both of the practice sessions we've done has been like a lot of internal work going, and both times you've said something about like you can see me mid-session just like moving internal mountains.
Yeah.
Uh, and like I remember this one especially like because the first one it was harder to say. This one I think there was more movement that was allowed to happen, and it was yeah.
It was pretty cool to see, and it's cool to see somebody like take a session. So, yeah, here's a very tangible thing. Like, how do I balance, you know, adding in, career and then doing coaching on the side. Like it's a very clear like thing. But then it's the internal, like who am I in these places? Like that's an amazing thing to look at with another person. So
Yeah, it was a gift.
it's fun to see it happen.
I was just pausing to reflect. I'm sure the listeners will be reflecting on that. So we have these themes of kind of moving and shifting internal mountains. We are on this exploration around taking up space and identity. And we touched a lot on vulnerability. And John was even sharing some of his own vulnerabilities. And we all have them as coaches and things that we continue to hold up the mirror to. I'm going to put a pause here because we're going to listen to part 2 next week. Anything else either of you would add to close us out?
Thank you, Raj. It's so good to have you back.
It's great to be back.
Excited for next week.
Thank you,
It's so
Shawnee.
good to have you here too. Like listening to this, because it does feel a little bit like you're like, it's an interesting experience as a coach to do a session and then review it with your client in real time. And I don't know if there is any other space or if there's any other podcast that's doing this, but I feel like this work matters. Thank you for showing up. It is moving the profession forward. I appreciate you being here and everyone listening and playing along with this.
Absolutely. Okay. Listen to us for part 2 next week. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. See you soon.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, Raj. That was good.